Okay guys, welcome to Engineering Scale Models. We are talking about mold making. This is going to be part 2. This is going to be tools you would possibly need. It's going to be more than you need, but it would make your molding process a lot easier. And coming up, I'm going to be doing a video on copying shoulder pads for Space Marines for Warhammer 40k. So a lot of people want to make different shoulder pads. I'm going to be using the Death Watch starter set because it has all the different shoulder pads from all the different factions, and I'm going to make copies of them. Be using a pourable silicone rubber from Smooth On. This is very good, and then I'm going to be using a Smooth On liquid plastic along with making them out of green stuff and epoxy sculpt. So I went over different materials and things like that in the last video, and I talked about a couple things. So there is a couple of different options for tools. So one material that I didn't talk about, and I wanted to keep it for the tool video, was plasticine. This is a block of plasticine clay. It is sulfur free. You want to make sure it's sulfur free, or you can get an oil-based clay, however you want to approach it. That's from Sergeant Art. It's dirt cheap. It's a big old block. Here it is right here, and this is what you're going to use to make a two-part mold. Whether you're making a two-part mold to fill with like a two-part epoxy putty to make the copy of your shoulder pads or whatever you want to make of, or you're going to be using a liquid plastic to pour into a mold. Now I'm going to be showing you making one or two with a putty material and a two-part mold, and I'm also going to be showing a way to make a liquid plastic where you would fill a mold up, where I'd make multiple copies. And that'll be a different video on how to do that because it's about making runners and things like that. So tools, first off, a digital scale. You don't need a large one if you're making small parts. You're making copies of small parts for model ships or miniatures or things like that. You're going to need a digital scale. It's better, you can measure things out by volume, but it works a little bit better measuring it out by weight for me in my case, and they all have a ratio on them. Like the plastic is 100 parts A to 93 parts B by weight, and then the rubber mold mix, this rubber mold mix is 1 part to 1 part by weight or volume. Also, you can get if you want to make a temporary one-piece mold to make a silicone blank, you can get this life casting. It is a alginate mixture like the dental plaster I showed in the last video, but this one can be mixed a little bit thinner and it can be poured into a mold, so you can make a one-time use mold like that. I had made a mold out of the dental stuff, and mixing it to the consistency they recommend, it doesn't take the shape as well. There's a lot of imperfections in it, so I'm going with a pourable alginate to make temporary molds. That's to make a negative to then make a positive to make another negative out of a moldable plastic. But that's not what this is about. This is about making silicone molds. So digital scale to weigh out your stuff. A lot of stuff, like some of the stuff I showed you yesterday, you weigh it out by weight. Another good thing to weigh out by weight is if you're making green stuff or things like that. It's good to have, if you can weigh out each part and get a better mixture, or you can add more green or more yellow and get a different hardness. You add more blue to make it softer, more pliable, give you more working time, different things like that, and I'll go over that in that video. If you're mixing silicone and liquid plastic and things like that, silicone mixing cups are fantastic because you just let the stuff cure, and then you can turn them inside out. You can peel the stuff out, clean it up with soap and water. You can buy starter kits that come with a scale and silicone mixing cups, little silicone molding dishes, different things like that. Like you could mold one shoulder pad in here and make copies of it. It'd be a tiny little mold. And then gloves. You can get some finger gloves that you put on one finger and push things down. I recommend a silicone mat to work on, so if you make a spill, it doesn't stick to your workbench or your cutting mat, and it'll dry on the silicone and peel right off. Then you have a couple different options for mixing sticks. You got your popsicle sticks. I recommend cutting the end so it's square to scrape the bottom of the dish, or you can use, like my starter set came with these lovely pink handled mixing sticks that are metal, and you just wipe them down with denatured alcohol or regular 99 alcohol, and you can clean those up. When it comes to making your two-part molds and things, silicone tipped tools to cut it in at 90 degrees are great. A variety of clay tools, you can buy these in a set that have tons of different ones. These are just the most common ones I'll be using. You can get disposable mixing cups. You can even use these to, cast blocks of resin. You want to carve them, blocks of plastic, if you want to carve them and shape them into different things. So you can have these. I recommend, a lot of times you can do the dual mix method, where you would take two of these cups and you would weigh out part A, weigh it out, and then take it off, and then you would weigh out part B, and then you would take both of these and pour them in your silicone mixing cup, and that way what you're going to have sticking in here is going to be roughly even on both of them, so you keep an even thing. I mean, you can weigh it out and pour both in here, but if you get a little off, it's hard to, you might have to keep making adjustments to make it right. And then also, after you mix it really, really well, it's best to pour it in another container and mix it some more, so that way if you have any streaks or unmixed on the sides of this cup, it's not going to interfere with your cure or your pouring process. So the double cup mixing technique is very helpful, and it is good for that. So two of those cups, some disposable cups for weighing out your resin and things like that are good to have. I wouldn't recommend weighing your silicone in this, because the silicone's so thick, but your liquid resin's pretty thin. And then silicone molds, you can buy a pack of these on Amazon. This is an entire pack. It is tons of silicone molds, and these are great. You can mount your part in there. You can clay it in if you're doing two parts. You can clay it in, pour your top part, and then you can just pop it out just like that, and you have your part, and then you can use this to cast the other side, or you can use a bigger one, or however you want to do it. But these are also great for making one-part molds, so use it how you see fit. But they're great to have. You can cast all different kinds of shapes. I mean, most of these I won't even use. I mean, this would be the main one. These two right here would be the main ones I would use. But you get a whole mess of them, cast all kinds of stuff. You can use your composite mold in it and just cast tons of stuff. So when you're mixing it up, I recommend having two molds at one time, so that way if you have extra, you have a small mold to the side, you can use the extra so you don't waste it. The silicone rubber is a little expensive. The liquid plastic's not so much, because you're not going to use as much. You're going to use more of the rubber, the silicone rubber for the mold, than you're going to use the plastic to fill it. So the plastic goes a little bit further. But you're going to make multiple copies of the parts, so it could even out. Now, I don't have mold release here because I use Vaseline petroleum jelly to be silicone will stick to silicone if you're making a two-part mold. So I use petroleum jelly. I brush it on the whole mold and make sure it's not clumped up or anything, and that seems to work pretty good. When I'm casting the parts, I use cornstarch or baby powder. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. Talc works great for, and that way you can just wash the part and paint it pretty easily. You're not going to have any of the oils from the mold release in it. So that is basic, the tools and various things you're going to need for making molds and starting to cast parts. I'm going to try to keep these videos in this series kind of short. So the last one was talking about all the different materials, things like that. The next one will be constructing trees, for the different types of molds. If you're pouring a mold, I'm going to be working with wax and making wax trees. I'm still waiting for some of the wax product. I used up all my wax and melted it into a glob, so it's better to have it out in a long stick. So you can use clay to make runners and things like that, but it's easier with the wax because it doesn't stick to the silicone. And then you can use like a heat pen. This is a heat pen to melt the wax and fill holes and gaps and things like that, so you get a better, cleaner mold and a better finish, in my opinion, and an easier demolding. So that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to start posting some moldings. I'm going to start testing for different things with stuff on my social media. These are them. Links are in the description. You can also visit me on Patreon, where I'm going to be posting the recipes for my green stuff and epoxy sculpt, mixing ratios to get a better product that is more sandable. You can even carve some detail in it and things like that after it's cured. I want to be doing a whole series on that and posting all that on there. So no need to sign up. I'm just going to have the stuff posted there. It's a platform for me to post stuff. So if you want to sign up, that's great. If not, the information's there. There's also some stuff on tabletop gaming there already, and there's going to be a lot of stuff on the mold making as I take you guys on this journey of making molds and casting parts. I'm going to start with some shoulder pads for 40K, and hopefully that comes helpful to a lot of people. And then I'm going to be showing how to make fixtures and things to machine parts on scale models. So that's going to do it for part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for part 3, and if you haven't checked out part 1, check it out now. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day.